And we're standing here today to say, that they got to come to us first.
Tonight, a second clan in the Wet'suwet'en Nation backs up the Unistoten resistance to big oil and gas in their unceded territory.
Doesn't mean that before a project can go forward, we expect unanimity.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sends a message of clear intent that his government will get Canadian oil to China.
They just believe in the effort and determination of these girls and coaches.
And the Res girls hockey team opened their hearts. Now Canadians are opening their wallets. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen. The family of 17-year-old Braden Jacob took his body home to the Webequie First Nation today. The youth was found dead in Thunder Bay in a park on December 9th. A service was held in Thunder Bay today before Jacob was taken home. He was last seen by his family on December 5th when he left the hotel they were staying at. 22-year-old Jonathan Yellowhead has been charged with second-degree murder. Jacob was in Thunder Bay accessing counseling services for grief and trauma. In British Columbia, a second camp has been set up to stop construction of the Coastal GasLink pipeline project, which will move natural gas from northern British Columbia to the west coast and then on to Asia. The pipeline has the support of elected First Nation leadership along the pipeline route, but there is opposition. And Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs visited the new camp to show their support. The camp set up by the Gitmitten clan of the Wet'suwet'en Nation is 20 kilometers down the road from the Unistoten camp, which has been blocking the proposed pipeline since 2010. The hereditary chiefs say the time is now for others in their territory to join the fight.
We could not for 8 years man a roadblock, and we had some people that came in and have been doing it. And now it's time that we all ante up and we all stand behind our members that are willing to go and step up for us.
The old days, the old fee system, the chief all support each other. When one gets in trouble, they all get up.
We are the rights and title holders. We are the highest ranking hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en Nation. We're not elected officials. No elected official at any level can outspeak the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs.
And we're standing here today to say, that they got to come to us first. And if they do, that no industry will be coming through this territory with gas pipelines. That's why we're here.
Prime Minister Trudeau held his year-end press conference in Ottawa today. APTN National News asked him about the proposed liquefied natural gas pipeline in northern BC. It has the support of several First Nations, as we said, but 5 hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en Nation are opposed to it. Here's what the Prime Minister had to say.
The LNG Canada project was a model of working with Indigenous communities, working with environmentalists, working with local communities in terms of moving forward in a way that is positive for the communities involved and positive for our entire country. We know that the export of Canadian liquid natural gas is going to displace significant amounts of coal in Asia, which will be better for the environment here at home and all around the world. So this is a good project, and the way they engaged with Indigenous leadership, with Indigenous communities, is actually a model of how we need to go forward. And it doesn't mean that before a project can go forward, we expect unanimity. I don't think that's a realistic expectation in a country like Canada or even within any Indigenous community. But having a process of engagement, of consultation, of partnership, whereby there is a consensus or there is a clear amount of support that comes forward is an important thing, is certainly desirable. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People clearly states that engaged attempts and partnership to get to consent, informed decision-making, partnerships, accommodation of concerns that people are facing, and listening and understanding those concerns is an essential part of getting big projects built, and that's certainly a model that we look to applying right across the country.
Frustration in Alberta is growing more apparent every day with each new rally in support of Alberta Oil. About 1,000 trucks are taking part in a convoy, and federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer will speak to the truckers in Nisku, Alberta, just south of Edmonton. This comes a day after the federal Liberals announced $1.6 billion in funding to inject some life back into Alberta's sagging energy sector. But Premier Rachel Notley says a larger deficit isn't what Alberta needs.
We made an ask to the federal government, and we didn't ask for the opportunity to go further into debt. So what we can only assume is that this is a first step and that there is more to come.
The convoy is made up of drivers from across Alberta.
Meanwhile, federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer is in Alberta hosting a town hall for energy workers. Scheer says he has their backs and that he's ready to win the 2019 election.
We are fighting for you. We are on your side. We are bringing up these issues day in, day out in the House of Commons. We're not just holding the Liberal government to account. We're showing the hypocrisy of a Liberal government that is doing everything it can to phase out Canada's energy sector, but seems to have no problem importing foreign oil from other countries. That is a hypocrisy that drives me crazy, and Conservatives are fighting for that.
It's come to light that an Indigenous corporal in the Canadian Military Reserves committed suicide after extensive bullying and hazing. CTV Winnipeg has more.
After the 26-year-old died during a training exercise at CFB Shiloh in November 2017, Corporal Nolan Caribou's family described him as a man who loved a challenge, determined and focused on his job in the infantry with the Royal Winnipeg Rifles. The Canadian Armed Forces conducted an internal inquiry and found Caribou died by suicide. Gym owner Michael Russell knew Caribou for a year and trained him. Russell says he talked about his love of working with the military.
Really fun to talk to, and yeah, all he wanted to do was learn, and he was somebody that seemed to be like he could get along with anybody. So it was a little shocking to hear that.
The commander of the 3rd Canadian Division in Edmonton ordered the probe, which looked into the circumstances of Caribou's death. Although we do not know everything going on in Corporal Caribou's life, I believe that the harassment he faced and the failure of unit leaders to intervene contributed to his death, said Brigadier General Trevor Cadieux. The inquiry also found, quote, troubling reoccurring activities at Minto Armory, including bullying, fighting, and inappropriate use of alcohol. The forces say 5 members have been reprimanded. 1 has been removed from a senior command position, another suspended, pending a separate military investigation, and is not currently at work. This retired colonel and law professor says more transparency is needed into the type of inquiry that looked into Caribou's suicide.
It is done by the military. The only members on the Board of Inquiry are military. They decide who will come to testify.
Dad of 2, Russell says he always encourages his kids to open up about their feelings. Russell wishes Caribou would have felt comfortable to talk about what he was dealing with in case he could help.
I thought he was a kid that was going to make a huge change in the future, so I thought he was going to be one of the game changers.
Beth Macton, LCTV News, Winnipeg.
Coming up, we have an update on Res Girls hockey team.
That and more after the break, but first a look at Thursday's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, +3 with showers for Halifax. -6 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 10 below with snow in Nain, 0 in sunny skies for Montreal, -1 for Saguenay and Quebec City, +7 with rain for Sarnia and London, 5 above in Toronto. Rain snow mix and -2 for Thunder Bay, sunny skies and -9 in Sioux Lookout, -13 for Puckatawagan, Thompson and God's Lake where snow is expected, -10 in Winnipeg, -8 for Gimli, -5 under sunny skies in Dauphin. -2 in Regina, 3 below in Estevan, +1 in Swift Current. -4 in Meadow Lake and La Ronge, where snow's on the way.
Welcome back. A few weeks ago, we told you about a GoFundMe campaign to gift a Northern Ontario community with an ice pad, and it's gaining some momentum. The new rink would benefit an all-girls Pee Wee hockey team that took Ottawa by storm last spring. Here's Annette Francis with more.
Earlier this year, Katie and Steve Koopman helped raise money to bring the Res Girls hockey team from the remote community of Fort Hope First Nation to play in their first ever hockey tournament in the nation's capital. And this fall, they set an even larger goal. The Koopmans began the GoFundMe campaign with the hopes of building a proper ice pad for the Res Girls hockey team to practice on.
I had a big goal of trying to reach 90,000 in 30 days. We are into our second month, but we are just over 2/3 funded, which is really amazing.
Koopman says although the pad won't be in place for this hockey season, they plan to keep pushing on with the campaign. The Res Girls Pee Wee hockey team gained the attention and the hearts of many, both on and off the ice, during the House League tournament in Canada last March. And according to Koopman, social media has played a big role in the success of the fundraising efforts.
Many of of the donations come from, people who play hockey themselves. Their children play hockey. It is their own act of reconciliation, and they just believe in the effort and determination of these girls and coaches and want to see them be gifted with an ice rink that every other kid in Canada has access to.
The Res girls might not be able to practice on a new ice pad in their community this winter, but that won't stop them from playing hockey. Koopman says the team, along with the coaches and families, will head to Kingston, Ontario to compete in a tournament next spring. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The Vancouver Art Gallery has a new exhibit that's challenging the notions of stereotypes of Indigenous people and creating a unique approach of reconciliation. APTN's Tina House has that story.
This is one of 3 video installations featured in the exhibit. It's called Buffalo Bone China. It looks at the near extermination of the buffalo, where their fine bones were then sent to England to make fine bone china.
And so while my own Lakota relatives were actually starving, other people were eating food off fine bone china. So I'm just like, how did this happen, right? And so I wanted to also honor that history, honor the buffalo because they're considered our ancestor.
Fringing the Cube is an exhibit featuring the work of multidisciplinary artist Dana Claxton. A combination of photographs, video, and multimedia tells the story of Dana's expansive 35-year career. She is Hunkpapa Lakota from Manitoba and has lived in Vancouver most of her life. She's received numerous awards for her work over the years.
I got my first camera when I was 16 and took pictures, but never, it took me a while to realize what you can actually do with art, with the image or with photography, and that you can actually put it within, a gallery setting.
And this exhibit spans across the entire second floor of the Vancouver Art Gallery. Dana says it was a 2-year process to gather pieces from public and private collections, as well as for her to create new pieces of art.
So this work is called the Mustang Suite, and it's a series of 5 photographs. And what I did was I invited people to sit for me, and I was thinking about Black Elk's vision of the horse dance. And so they all have their own ponies, Mustang bikes, Mustang cars, Mustang pony girls, and it's sort of thinking about mobility and freedom through the pony and through the horse. What inspires me is, I think, our humanness, our shared collective experience, Indigenous beauty, Indigenous knowledge.
The exhibit is on display until February of 2019. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Earlier today on In Focus, we looked at how 2018 fared in terms of reconciliation. What were the steps forward and the steps backwards? Has there been meaningful effort or just talking points and empty gestures? Here's some of what our panelists had to say.
And we have to remember that Indigenous peoples are healing in the either aftermath or still while cultural genocide is still actively occurring in this country. So the focus on healing, the focus on protecting ourselves, the focus on protecting our children and our identities and our language is fundamental to the process of reconciliation, and the principles of reconciliation really reaffirm that. For non-Indigenous peoples, it's about knowing and about being willing to be held to account and being responsible for our collective actions as a country. Mm-hmm. So what Ian was talking about in terms of, the accountability in terms of monitoring our actions, being transparent in where we're doing things and not doing things, and really aggressively addressing our gaps in knowledge are absolutely essentials. Mm-hmm. So people need to learn more. They need to listen more. They need to listen not with their heads, but with their hearts. Right?
I like that.
And we have to start with the very basic understanding that this is Indigenous land, period.
Yeah.
We have to start from that perspective in everything that we do and recognize that the country now that we're trying to reconcile with has very, very shaky origins. So we always have to start from that perspective that this is Indigenous land. Indigenous cultures are essential for this country to realize really truly who it is.
We covered the opening of the Truth and Reconciliation Office on Main and Portage, And I remember, I'm not going to say his name because he's retired from politics now, but he was the deputy mayor. And so he comes, it's his chance to speak with a bunch of dignitaries there. He comes out and he looks at everybody and he says, well, I don't know much about history. I don't know much about residential schools, but if this means you people are finally going to get over it, I'm all for it. You know, which kind of left me kind of shocked.
Thanks. Thanks for that. But then, how do you even respond?
After the report came out, I read something with now Senator Moon Sinclair, and he was saying that he thought it would take more than a generation. And at the time I was thinking, a generation? But then as we've proceeded through this, I can see where he's coming from, that right now we're still in the discussion phase, you know. I don't think we're really in an action phase yet.
Another great episode. You can find that online. Time for another quick break.
When we come back, a nativity scene featuring the National Chief.
Picking back up in northern Alberta, -12 under sunny skies for high level, -4 with snow for Grand Prairie, +9 in Lethbridge, 7 above under sunny skies in Medicine Hat, +11 with showers in Tofino and Vancouver, +1 in Bella Coola, -11 for Dease Lake, +4 in Prince Rupert, -19 in Old Crow and Rock River, 18 below for Watson Lake, -10 and sunny for Fort Liard and Trout Lake, 24 below in Norman Wells, 19 below for Sax Harbor and Inuvik, -20 in Fort McPherson, -29 in Baker Lake, -30 for Whale Cove, -24 in snow in Clyde River, -28 in Resolute.
Welcome back. A ribbon skirt workshop in Ottawa isn't just about learning to sew, it's also about connecting to community. Angel Moore has more from the Odawa Native Friendship Centre.
Ribbon skirts come in all different colors and designs. How a skirt is designed can depend on who you ask. Colleen Paxton says people express their individuality through their skirts.
Some people like it down to touch the earth. Some people don't care if it touches the earth. Some people don't like splits on the side. So it's all completely personal.
She says some skirts have 2 ribbons and some have 6, but everyone agrees that the skirts should be below the knee. Some skirts touch the ground and some are above the ankle.
But I do find it best if you are going to go to a ceremony with a skirt and you know the grandmother to ask her, because it would be respectful to ask the grandmother that is facilitating whatever it is you're doing, that you are respecting her wishes.
Barbara O'Neill is making her skirt for her drumming. She says her skirt connects her to Mother Earth and other women in her community.
These workshops are extremely important for the healing and for the therapy of us women. But if we didn't have this, we wouldn't have a place to go and make our skirts, our moccasins, our regalias and things that we need, that we're able to now come out and use in the powwows and in the ceremonies and in the workshops.
Jamie Morse came to the Friendship Centre years ago to ground herself in a new city. She says she's learning to make skirts for herself and her daughters.
It's helped me to connect with my community and even to help share what I know as a Métis person from out west with Ottawa folks.
The Ribbon Skirt Workshop has stitched up for the year. The Ottawa Friendship Centre plans on more workshops in the new year. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Works from a remote Arctic town are now being showcased at the Winnipeg Art Gallery. Among its massive collection of Inuit art, it gives a unique insight into the life of the inland Inuit. Our Amber Bernard has more.
Each picture in this exhibit tells a story of life in the Inuit community of Baker Lake. Baker Lake is about 250 kilometers inland from the western coastline of Hudson's Bay. So unlike most Inuit communities with a strong connection to the ocean, the people of Baker Lake do not. Mary Yusupik was from there and was a multi-talented artist. She was known for her stone carvings and needlework on fabric, but it wasn't until 2014 that her drawings were discovered.
I've admired her sculpture and her wall hangings over the years. And then when I discovered that she had been making drawings, I was just so excited because, having known of her for so long, and it was really nice to actually get to meet her.
This is a piece that caught my eye. It's called The Young and the Old. It's about Mary Yusupik's grandmother and how she comes from the last generation of women who had face tattoos. It shows just how quickly culture can change from one generation to the next. Darlene worked closely with Yusupik in 2014 and 2015 when she collected her stories. Mary Yusupik passed last year. She says her drawings represent the positive life Mary had in Baker Lake.
I think so. So many of them are very happy. She thoroughly enjoyed her life when she was growing up. It was so much fun.
And then just interested to read the story of what was going on, and it's quite interesting.
You can visit Yusupik's exhibit until March 2019. Amber Bernard, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Over Christmas, nativity scenes are pretty regular sights outside of churches, but one in Calgary is raising more than just a few eyebrows. It looks like a pretty traditional nativity scene outside Red Deer Lake Church until you look closely. One of the wise men is National Chief Perry Bellegarde, with his gift of a blanket offering and a symbol of warmth and teachings. Beside him are astronaut Roberta Bondar and musician Michael Franti.
I think it's great to include the national chief in there with an astronaut.
It is amazing. I want to know the backstory though, like what was going through your mind when you create that? There's got to be a good story.
If you're the artist, reach out to Tamara. That's all our news for you for this Wednesday. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night.
And if you missed our 2018 Reconciliation Report Card show, you can watch it on our Facebook page or it reruns here tomorrow morning at 10 Eastern. That's on In Focus. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.